Right, hello and welcome to PC Building Simulator 2. Now, basically, this is a brand new game following the original one that I used to play. In this video, we are going to be playing the free mode. Right, in this video, I am going to be talking about and building the Intel Celeron, the Intel Pentium, the Intel Core i3, the Intel Core i5, the Intel Core i7, and the Intel Core i9. I start my PC building adventure by opening up an empty case, Tower of the Computer. The most important part of a computer is the motherboard, so I'm going to just get this installed. We go for Intel Celeron as our starting machine because we want to start from low end before we end up going high end. And to keep the CPU at its best cooling, besides the cooler, we put some thermal paste on the CPU. Right, we are going to get 4 GB of memory, random access memory, RAM for short. Now for the part we all love, the graphics card. The power supply unit. Next we want to install some storage where the operating system is going to be located on in order for the computer to function. We also need an actual cooler for the CPU processor. The case fan is next, keeping the whole of the components nice and cool. Now we're going to put the case cover back on and see how this computer performs. We are in. Now basically the first thing that I always check when I load up a computer are the specifications. We have an Intel Celeron G3 900 and we have got a decent GeForce graphics card. We got 4 GB of memory, 120 GB of storage. This is just an example of what would run on this computer. Now I can use real life examples just as much as I can use examples on here. So this is basically what we are looking at. The OCCT software engine seems to measure the GPU and the temperature, the CPU throttling, and it also tells you the watts of the power being drawn as well. It also has information on the CPU gigahertz as well, which it's measured in megahertz, but we can easily convert it to gigahertz, and it will tell you about the overclock, which will be 100% usually on this. Now this is a performance test, which gives you a score, right? Depending on the system that you have got. This will generate like little parts of a picture. Each part is a picture within itself. This will give you an idea of how fast a game would run on an Intel Celeron. As we can see, it's trying to generate the picture, but it's taking a long time because this is the best the processor can do at such a slow speed. And remember, the other specifications are also very low as well. So we're not going to get much performance out of this particular CPU. So basically, I'm going to write down and also show you each computer system that I build. The last one has been built for me, by the way, the i9. Couldn't build that because the simulator didn't give me the option to. But anyway, I will write it down and we will then at the end of the video compare it, and then all the specifications, and we'll take it from there. The performance results were 5 minutes and 9 seconds for the Intel Celeron. We've got Windows 11 desktop wallpaper, Microsoft Word, which is typo, and Excel, which is sellout, cookbooks, which is PowerPoint, or maybe not in this case, and datamine, which is access. Now on Intel's website, right, we have got the Intel Celeron processor G3900, 2M cache at 2.8 gigahertz. That's what I think we set to on PC Building Simulator 2. Now if we scroll down, we also see all these details of the processor. $42 got there. The pounds will be figured out easily as well. And obviously, there's probably not much you can do on a computer like this. But because it's a more up-to-date Celeron computer, then maybe the limitations aren't that limited. So basically, you're going to look at a decent computer, but you're going to be limited to what the actual Celeron can achieve, whether it's software, games, or any other tasks you wish to do on your current computer. Which leads us to say about the Pentium next. That's what we're going to look at next in a lineup. So stay tuned for that. Now to get to the Pentium, we are just going to upgrade the current Celeron using the same motherboard, which should be fine when it comes to compatibility. The Intel Pentium G4400 is the processor we're going to be using for this upgrade. Just before the thermal paste goes on, we're going to have a little quick look at the processor information. Looks good. Okay. Now I might pick a different CPU cooling fan to add to it. The WAM is still going to kind of be the same for this one because it was just the processor with the upgrade mainly. Now that we have landed in the computer's desktop, we are now going to look at the specifications. As you can see, Intel Pentium G4400 at 3300 MHz, that's 3.3 GHz, 2 cores. It's got a decent graphics card in it, 4 gigs of RAM memory, 120 gigabytes of storage, which for a computer would be able to serve most of your initial everyday tasks, including the odd games. Right, now we are entering the Cinebench Release 2.0. This is going to show us the performance, the speed of a Pentium processor. You might find that this goes a slight touch faster than the initial Celeron that we ran earlier on. The Pentium is a much more powerful processor and can handle a little bit more from its fellow Celeron processor. With the Pentium, we'll see more than one square being generated at a faster speed, and once again, I am going to write down how long it took in minutes and seconds, and then you'll be able to later on compare the differences with the speed. The performance test took, this time on the Pentium, 4 minutes and 58 seconds. So it's not much different from the Celeron when it comes to speed. It's just faster by a couple of seconds more or less, or the best of part of a minute. But as you can see, with the Pentium there is somewhat of an improvement. Right, now we're just doing the OCCT test. This will just tell you the watts, the temperature of GPU, CPU throttled, and obviously the gigahertz, which is 3.3. Right, on here we've got the Intel Pentium processor G4400, 3M cache, and 3.30 gigahertz. Now this basically is a step up from the Celeron that we talked about earlier. With this Pentium, it's worth $64, whatever that is in pounds. Work that out. Got the 3.3 gigahertz. It's got probably got an increase in some of the other speeds as well. And the memory, obviously, the maximum memory size is 64 gigabytes, whatever that is based on, DDR4. And then it's got all the GPU options as well for the processor. It's even got all this here, which is very useful for GPU support. Obviously, it's got the Intel 64, advanced technologies, hyper-threading technology, got all this security as well. So it's quite a decent processor if you don't have a lot of money. Now it's time to step into the Intel Core processor series. So that's what we'll be covering next. Right, next up is the Intel Core i3-6100T, and this is the one that we are going to install, just upgrading from the Pentium. Now the T means optimated for effective desktop computing. So we're just going to get that firmware paste on right now. Now upgrading to 8 GB of RAM memory, and then we are going to have a look at the graphics card and upgrading that to a little bit higher. This one's a 4 GB one. Right, we're going to see what kind of power this has got. Now it is an Intel Core i3, so we're just going to load into the operating system after installing, and we'll see where we go from there. Whenever looking at the specifications, I always aim for the CPU information and the graphics card information regards to the V memory. Now, Intel iCore 3-6100T optimated for gaming, 3.2 GHz, it's a 2-core based CPU. It's a 4 GB graphics card. Most of the minimum requirements require that, most of the maximum require 8 GB. It is 8 GB of RAM, and basically you will be able to do way more on this computer as it will perform more. We've kept to our 120 GB of storage as well. And now we run the performance test on Cinebench. You will find that now it is doing this at a much more greater speed than what the fellow Celeron and Pentium did. The Intel iCore 3 processor will have a much higher benchmark score than its previous processors, and basically, as you can see, it's doing more parts of the picture and it's going much faster than the previous models brands of the processor. So once again, we are going to make a note of the amount of minutes and seconds it took for this test to complete. After doing this performance test, we reached 2 minutes and 13 seconds. Now that is an impressive improvement compared to the Pentium. Now we have got the Intel Core i3-6100T processor on the Intel website. Now we start looking at the individual sub-specifications that this CPU holds with it. Got all the essentials. It's actually worth, as the customer price, £117, right? Obviously, this gives you an estimate of an idea of how much it would cost. We're also looking at the CPU specifications, which is the total cores 2, total threads 4, the threads being where the hyper-threading technology is only available on performance cores. We've got the cache being 3 megabytes, and then going further down, we got okay, we've got the memory information here. Can hold quite a lot, to be honest. The GPU information as well, all there. You know, it's all really good for the usual OpenGL DirectX support. Usually there's a graphics card built-in display with all the intels. What else have we got here? Advanced technology, Intel Turbo Boost technology. Fortunately, it doesn't have it. Intel Turbo Boost technology here doesn't always have the efficiency for it. And then it's just the security side of things. On a higher generation, you'd probably get Windows 11 on this as well. Now we're going to move on to the Intel Core i5, which is basically the one that I use on my main computer myself. Don't have a good one, but it's decent. And this is the one that I'm going to be building next on the PC Building Simulator 2. I hope you enjoy this next part, because now the computers are actually going to get more powerful now. A little bit more powerful than we've actually been at before. Right, we are now going to yet again upgrade the computer by removing the CPU, and no guesses to the next one. We will be looking for an Intel i Core 5. Now I'm just going to select one, pop it in the computer's motherboard, and then add the thermal paste. It's 2.7 gigahertz by the looks of it. Right, for the hard drive we're going to upgrade to 500 gigabytes, which will be not only good for the operating system's performance to run on, but it'll also be good for giving us plenty of room to install other software and games. So we're just going to connect that to the computer. We're just going to add the CPU cooling. Regards to the cooling devices, I may change them every so often. Even the power supply, I might change that or keep that the same. So we are in the operating system. We're just going to install it. It does install very fast on the simulator as well. But yeah, we're going to do that. And then once we're in, we are now going to see how our i5 performs. This is going to be interesting now. Now we're getting more power. Now for the exciting part. The specifications. We've got an Intel Core i5 6400, 3.3 gigahertz, 4 cores. So the gigahertz must be a bit higher then on this one, which is good than I thought they were going to be. But anyway, it could just be the boost that's doing that, to be honest, the turbo boost. But we got a 4 gigabyte GPU, and basically it is looking very good. Right, you know the routine, everybody. we now do the performance test. Now, you know before when we did the i3, well you might find with the i5, it may not be too much of a speed step up from the previous processors, but we might get a slight difference in how long this takes, because already we've got almost half a picture. As you can see, sometimes the processor does slow down when it's struggling, but then there are times when it speeds up as well, like it just did then. So basically, we are seeing how 3.3 gigahertz runs on an i5. So I will once again tell you, when this is finished, how long it took in both minutes and potential seconds. Okay, the speeds performance between the i3 and the i5 is only a couple of seconds difference, and it's 2 minutes and 11 seconds for this performance test. Okay, now on Intel's website we have got Intel Core i5 6400 processor with 6M cache up to 3.3 gigahertz. There are some more listed here, processors, which I think are a lot faster and more powerful. 5.2 gigahertz, you would get a lot out of that on an i7. Definitely the most I've ever seen before. Um, but yeah, you also get all these other specifications as well. Such the customer's recommended customer's price would be $182, whether that is in pounds. Obviously, subject to pricing from Intel. Basically, we're just going to cover the 4 cores, the 3.3 gigahertz, even the one in our computer on PC Building Simulator 2 has less. The turbo boost, I think it's 2.7 gigahertz, but with the turbo boost, we're talking about and looking at 3.3 gigahertz for such a computer. And then going down, we got more of the specifications, including the built-in graphics. This is the built-in graphics, Intel HD Graphics 530, and then just telling you everything. I've got a laptop with Intel Ultra HD graphics I have, which is even better. It's almost like a dedicated graphics card. But there you are. And the conspiracy of things, right? We are now going to start turning up the volume and looking at computers that are a lot more powerful. We've got 2 more computers to show you, and one of them is going to definitely run a lot, and the other one is going to run everything that you could ever imagine, every software, every game, the lot. So let's get into that, shall we? Right, the Intel Core i7 is next. It's the 6th generation one. I think what it says, we're just going to put that in, and the thermal paste. It's 6700K, this one is. Now we move up to an 8 GB graphics card. This computer is going to have 16 GB of RAM, a lot more than the previous computers we've been building. Now for your favourite part, the specifications. Intel Core i7-6700K at 4.2 GHz. It says a 4 core, but that's okay for now. And obviously we've got an 8 GB graphics card. It's an NVIDIA GeForce GX T1070 Ti Founders Edition, and it's looking very powerful. This would run a lot of games, I would imagine. This PC has also got the 500 GB of storage. Now we're going to go into the BIOS now, and this is what the BIOS looks like on PC Building Simulator 2, just like you would expect in real life. You've got the chipset information, you've got the gigahertz, you've not only got the RAM, 16 gigs of RAM, but it tells you how many RAM sticks you've got and how much is on each one. It tells you about the graphics card. You can change any of the BIOS settings. You could use this to turbo boost your CPU processor. For some reason as well, you can turbo boost your RAM as well on this. I've never seen anything like this with the memory, but you can for some reason, and obviously it doesn't give you an option to turbo boost the CPU, maybe because on this processor maybe can't be turbo boosted. It might be a locked processor. But here's the BIOS. Now this is the part you've probably all been waiting for, the performance test. Now, this one, being an Intel Core i7, doesn't matter what generation it is, it's going to take on a lot more tasks. Because I'm sure a processor's that good can have up to 8 cores. But you can see now, we've got loads of squares generating at once. And they're generating very fast as well. Generating, I may not even have to cut part of the video out because this is going to be complete in no time. But we are going to now see how fast this is compared to the previous speed tests that we've seen on the previous processors. So this only took 55 seconds, well under a minute for the Intel Core i7 processor. So we are at the Intel Core i7 6700K processor, 8M cache, up to 4.2 GHz. And we got some on the side, which these looked like to be 13 generation processors over this side. Other newer Intel processors and experiences improved performance, but the one we're on is a 6th generation. It looks very good for its model and all that. And we got total cores 4, total threads 8, 4.2 gigahertz. Obviously with a turbo as well. I think it's the base is 4.0 and the turbo is 4.2 for this generation. And then obviously 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM maximum. And then obviously graphical input information is there. The advanced turbo boost technology. It's all here where we can get the information from. And the next computer, right, I'm going to show you is going to be the most absolute powerful computer in this video. But also, if you've got your hands on such a computer, it doesn't matter what you play, what you do, anything you try to run, it will just run, just like that. There'll be no, basically, restrictions, limitations, nothing. You will get your perfect machine. Let's get into it and have a look, shall we? Now, PC Building Simulator 2 didn't give me the option to build an Intel Core i9, but there was already one that was built for me, that was given to me as a gift in the game, as part of the game. So we are just going to plug it in, boot it up, and find out how powerful this computer can get when we put it into proper computing action regards to software, games, performance and all that kind of stuff. Right, let's have a look at the specifications for this powerful computer. Intel Core i9 10940X. That is very powerful. 14 cores and 24 gigabytes, and obviously look at the performance of this. Do I even need to say much on this one? This is just going too fast. I love it. The BIOS. I will show you how long the performance test took. And also, I'm going to now quickly show you if we wanted to get the CPU speed from what it is 4.8 gigahertz to something like 5.2 gigahertz, which is a mad speed, and then we turn up the voltage. We don't want to do this too high because it could break the computer, but we want it to be even more super powerful. If you used a careful precautions, you can actually do this on a computer. In a minute you're going to notice something a little bit different. 5.2 gigahertz. We have just made it more powerful. Okay, this is the performance test from when we was generating that picture earlier on. It only took 15 seconds. But now I'm going to show you what this looks on the benchmark score test. Like a video game, let's say in a cutscene, where the camera's moving about all over the room and the area, and then there's a character walking through the space. Let's say this looks like a museum. Well, it is a museum showing different parts. This also could be within a video game. We are just getting a very smooth performance where the frames per second, the frames, the time, and obviously you can get this on real computers as well. But this is just showing you how it would hold up and perform. So yeah, it's looking very, very good. Seeing the graphics card in action, the RAM memory, and the CPU processor. This is what you would get from an Intel Core i9 processor. We have a benchmark score of 16248. The Intel Core i9 10940X is the Intel i9 X series processor at 19.25M cache. At its base, it's 3.3 GHz, which is about here. It can be turbo boosted to 4.8 GHz. Moving on with the rest of the specifications, it takes DDR4 memory, obviously maximum memory size to 256 gigabytes, which is a mad amount, that is. And then we just go down to all this great specs technology of the actual CPU processor. That is going to include our video for today. Intel processor is being complete. We may talk about Raisins computers. I don't know anything about Macs, Sony PCs, but if I do find games, simulators, or anything else to talk about with the technology of computers are concerned, I will include them. But other than that, that concludes our video, and I hope you also enjoyed my type of building on PC Building Simulator 2, which I was finally able to play on my laptop. Runs fine at a decent graphics setting, and I will catch you in the next video.